Hello and welcome to Square Balloon Actions and Tutorials. This tutorial is for Adobe Camera Raw 7.3 and we're going to be working with adjustment brushes, and I'm going to show you how to go from the raw image here where we had the background blanket, which was a color that we wanted to change to make it more like the color of the wrap here. We're going to do a little bit of skin smoothing and a little bit of sharpening as well, so that we end up with this one here. So let's go back to our raw image first, and the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to deal with the background here. So I'm going to go onto the adjustment brush, which is up here on the top left, and I'm going to just double click on everything so I know everything's back to 0, and I'm going to bring the temperature down because I know that I want it to be less yellow. I'm going to bring the exposure up. I would like it to be a little bit brighter, and we'll just start off with those settings first. So we're going to make a nice big brush and just paint it over the blanket. So already you can see that blanket change, and once you've got your once you've got it painted, then you can change your sliders as well. If you say, oh well, maybe it's a little bit too, maybe it could do with being a little bit brighter, then you can always do that. You can make your brush bigger and smaller by using the square brackets, just like in Photoshop. And you can also lower the density of this brush, which means you're lowering the effect of it. So I just want to take a little bit more away from that blanket there. Bring the density back up. Okay, so as you can see, it's much whiter now. But again, if you wanted the temperature to be even lower, you could bring it down. That's gone a little bit blue, so I'm going to bring it back up. I don't want it too white. And then, of course, you can make it brighter if you want to. The other thing that I like to do is I'm going to just go back onto the basic panel here. I'm going to go to the effects, and I'm going to make a pale vignette, which I like when you're working with all white. It's quite nice to have a pale vignette. Bring the midpoint in a little bit, and that just helps to fade off that white blanket a bit. So the next thing that we're going to deal with is the skin. So this baby had very good skin, but you can see a few little areas of red that we're also going to get rid of with the adjustment brush. So I'm going to click on the adjustment brush again, double click to 0 on my sliders. So for this one, I know that I want to take some of the color out of those red areas. So I'm going to bring the saturation down slightly, and I'm also going to bring the exposure up just a little bit. So we're going to paint on those little red areas. The fingers. And this will just even up the skin color and just take a little bit of the redness out. Okay. Now I'm going to do a little bit of smoothing. So again, adjustment brush. Whoops. I want to make a new one, so I just click new there. I'm going to double click on all these to 0 them again. And so for this new brush, I want to smooth the skin. So I'm going to bring the clarity down and the sharpness down. So to about 55 or 60. And again, using my square brackets to make the brush bigger or smaller, I'm going to just go over the areas of skin that I want to just have a little bit of smoothness brought to. Making sure that I'm not going over any hard lines. So you can see that's just brought a little bit of smoothness. And then with any kind of smoothness, it's good to sharpen up other areas that you want to keep sharp. So another new brush. So you can make as many brushes as you like, and just when you hover over them, you can see what they do. So for this one, I'm going to make it a little bit sharper, and I want to sharpen along the lash line here. So I'm going to use a little bit of clarity and a little bit of sharpness. Now clarity will also bring darkness, which is good for a lash line because it just helps to emphasize the lashes. and I'd like to sharpen up the lips a little bit as well, but I don't want to bring any darkness to them, so I'm going to double click on the clarity slider, and I'm just going to bring a little bit more sharpness to the lips. Now that's fine, it's looking pretty good so far, but overall I just want to warm up all the skin. So I make another new brush. I'm going to bring the sharpness back down to 0. And so this time I'm going to raise the temperature just a little bit. And with a big brush, I'm just going to go over all the skin there, and we'll see how that looks. Okay, it's looking a little bit orange there, so I'm going to bring that down a little bit. So it's just got a +5 there. Now I think I did something to this brush here. I'm going to bring the exposure of that back up again. So let's just have a look at that. You can just hover over. So this is the one that I was using to make the skin a little bit warmer. So let's have a look. So it just needs the tiniest little bit of temperature. That'll raise the exposure. Bring a little bit of contrast. And so I'm pretty happy with that now. I can have a look at my straight out of camera image and then my edit. So that's just working with a few adjustment brushes to do an entire edit in Adobe Camera Raw.